first, I think he thought a lot more would happen as well, and then he kind of tempered down a bit. And I was like, this is going to be a magic story focused on her. Anything tech-wise, anything outside of magic will be like just like barely touched on to continue elsewhere later. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. And everyone was like, oh, the hexes are the space jumps or Hayward's Grim Reaper. I'm just, it's a magic story. Relax. Yeah, you'll get to the rest of the stuff later. It's a magic story, though. Oh. But anyways, something that's not magic is the stuff that Warner Brothers and DC has been pumping out for the majority of their modern movie era. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people like some of the films, hate others, like an extended version over a theatrical version or whatever. We're about to get our third version of Batman versus Superman. But we learned late last week, thanks to, I don't know if it was a physical museum or a digital museum, but some storyboards and things were left up for Justice League from 5 years ago, allegedly. And Geekosity, I think it is. Is that how you pronounce it? Geekosity Mag. Don't know how much to trust them, but comicbookmovie.com, as well as Small Screen, a Giant Freaking Robot. A lot of people jumped onto these alleged leaks. And like Manny and I talked about last week, sometimes rumors, no matter how ridiculous they are, even if they turn out not to be true, sometimes they're fun to discuss the what if. Mm-hmm. But there's some alleged legitimacy to these. I haven't seen photos of the alleged storyboards, but regardless, this is an interesting conversation. And with that, I'm going to say good morning, everyone. Welcome to LR Mornings. Today is a special day. It's one of those comic source takeovers with Jace and Manny, but I'm actually here. So, hi, Jace. How you doing today, man?
Good. Good to be here, Kyle.
Good. Thanks so much for being on, and thanks for holding down the fort a couple times with Manny when I was busy as well. Manny, how you doing?
Doing well.
So, you guys know what we're here to talk about, these alleged Zack Snyder Justice League 2 and 3, or what was labeled on one side as 2 and 2A, or 2A, 2B. Apparently, the second film was going to be split into two, like most things are, but Warner Brothers did what they did. I've heard from Manny a bit. Jace, I gotta hear from you. Just first off, how happy are you that the Snyder cut, or excuse me, Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to finally hit, so we don't have to keep talking about it? And then, what is your reaction to the idea of his 2 and 3?
Well, you can see the picture that I have right here.
Yeah.
So that kind of says it all. And here's the thing: like Zack Snyder, visually, he's a great artist. He works in film. That's what he does. He in terms of live action, cool shots that look great. The problem is when you give him the creative reins of handling the writing, and where things start to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So then you start talking about taking these characters that have been around for decades. He has a fundamental misunderstanding of who these characters are. And that's where the disconnect happens. I don't know Zack Snyder personally. I don't have anything against him personally.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, am I tired of hearing about him? I'm tired. Like it used to be, okay, I just want Zack Snyder away from the DC films because I don't think he has a good understanding of the characters and he can't make a good DC film. Now it's to the point where I just don't want to hear his name regarding anything. I'm sick of it at this point. Zack Snyder hasn't done anything in terms of story-wise that I've enjoyed and granted, I haven't seen every single thing he's done, but since Dawn of the Dead, which I thought was fantastic, but even even Watchmen had problems, and it's only gotten worse since then. Do I think he can make things that are cool to look at? Yes. Do I think he can make a good film if he's handling the writing duties? No. Do I think he's a good director? He's probably not. He's probably somewhere in the middle. He's not as bad as some people make him out to be. He's not as great as his loyal following seems to make him out to be either. His truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but I think he can be a good director if he's given a good story and good actors and doesn't try to change the story around, because I think he can capture cool visual images on film. So yes, I am very happy that this is finally coming out so we can put it behind us. I think the whole thing, the idea that this group of fans was able to get Warner Brothers to capes, that's a terrible precedent. Like giving in to terrorists, you know. And next time they're only going to ask. They're only going to ask for more. No, is this life and death? No, but it's the same sort of. It's the same sort of thing. Like if you give somebody an inch, they'll take a mile. Maybe I should use that instead of
that would be better.
Right? Yeah. So I just think
canceled.
it sends a bad precedent. Like, you know, if fans don't like something, I mean, we never saw Disney give in on any of this stuff when fans were gonna raise $20 million to redo Rian Johnson's Star Wars movie. Like, you know, ridiculous stuff like that. Yeah. I can't believe this actually happened. So let me and the other part, one last sure. thing, Con. The other part is that nobody that clamored and protested and, you know, complained online and, you know, got this to actually happen, they can never give any opinion whether they think it's good or not, other than yes, it's great, we loved it. Because they're not going to. Yeah, they can't admit they were wrong. So that whole corner of the fan base that's going to eat this up with a spoon, even whether they like it or not, you can't give any credence to their actual opinion on, hey, was this good? And I think that's wrong too, because I want to hear their true, honest opinion. Did this really work for you? And we'll never get that.
I think there's a few people, Jammer, honestly, I think will be able to give you his honest opinion. You might not agree with his version of his honest opinion,
was he one of the ones out there actively campaigning?
No, he was. Yeah. He actually liked Justice League well enough. He's like, you know, it's a interesting movie. He wasn't an anti-Snyder guy, and he wasn't a pro-Snyder guy. So he's, like I said, from him you might get a decent.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm talking about the people that campaign for it. You'll never get their true opinion.
I agree, Manny. You and I talked about this last week. People already, this is better than Infinity War. The second one would have beaten Endgame. It's the greatest thing ever. Have you seen the trailer? He used the song from Watchmen, which some of us bitched about, but now act like is great. I liked it, but you know, other people complained about it. One thing for Jace, since you brought up fans getting changes made as a dangerous precedence. Sorry. The Sonic the Hedgehog issue. Are you okay with that type of fan outrage getting some changes done?
Fundamental difference between
what
happened there and what happened here.
Exactly.
That happened before the movie came out.
Right.
So,
so you're good with that.
So
Stuff
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But you know, Warner Brothers made a decision to bring in Joss Whedon to finish the movie, right or wrong, and if Joss Whedon's a piece of crap or not is completely irrelevant. But they made a decision. They brought in somebody else. Snyder had some personal issues. You know, it was a terrible tragedy in his family, and I get that. But that was the choice they made. That was the movie that was released. And at that point, that's the movie that exists. And I think caving into what is, I think the toxicity of the fandom for Snyder, you know, the fact that with the name calling and the divisiveness, that's where I have a problem. If everybody kind of rises up and says, hey, we don't think this looks good, and the studio responds to that, I think that's a different situation, which I think is more the case with Sonic.
Absolutely. I just want to, because I was actually impressed that the studio listened when it came to Sonic. Like you said, it's a very different situation, and that's one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, you guys did good listening there. Manny, your first thoughts when you started looking through some of these, before we start getting into specifics, some of these Justice League 2 and 3 story points, Lois and Batman having some lovey-dovey time, and
so like, I'm not anti this Justice League cut. I'm happy that I get to see Darkseid on the big screen. Right. I'm happy I get to see some of these characters that were just, storyboards at one point, or just, hey, this was what it was going to look like. I'm just sick of hearing about it at this point. I just want it to be done. This is coming from somebody who really enjoyed Man of Steel. I really enjoyed the director's cut of Batman v Superman. So, but absolutely hated the Whedon cut of Justice League. It was very, very bad. So after seeing these storyboards, I am very, very happy that he did not have the opportunity to continue to make 2 and 3, because that would have been atrocious. That there's no way to really describe of how much a person doesn't understand the fundamentals of characters than that. I mean, it's almost as bad as one of Jace's favorite screenwriters. What's his name? I don't keep him in my mind anymore.
David Goyer.
David Goyer, saying that She-Hulk, should be on a stripper pole. It's like,
what? I missed that.
Yeah, that was great. So yeah, the only thing that would have been really cool to see is to see some of these villains come together.
Yeah.
I'm a big Captain Cold. I love Captain Cold. And I like the way he was going to do it. They were going to, Deathstroke was going to come out of the Batman film, and you already had the poison doctor, whatever her name was again.
Orm and Black Manta.
You had your league already made pretty much, and it was going to be throughout those films. So that would have been exciting to see. I think that would have been very, very entertaining. But other than that, the personal side of Bruce and Lois would have been very confusing. It goes against everything that DC has done with the characters for so many decades, and it's absolute. It would have been absolutely horrible. To see that, and I never wanted Batman. First of all, the only way he ever had a kid was they had to drug him up, and then that's how he got Damian.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I was like, oh well, I don't have to worry about it, because it's not like there's a secret. These films have secretly been filmed already.
Yeah.
But let me tell you one thing. Don't be surprised if in 6 months you see this in a digital comic book form, though.
Yeah, I agree. Or potentially, I've even thought they might animate it for HBO Max.
Like, I mean, at this point, with so many competing services, everything's fair game. But I do think that also that this president we will be seeing David Ayer's Suicide Squad soon.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, let's go in.
So what go ahead, Jace. Quick, so you guys are going to be shocked by this. But as I read through the specific plot points, and I think we're going to go through them, I started to come around and started to think, but here's the thing, right? Like, it sort of feels like as we read, the article on a certain website where it has 10 different basically plot points or scenes of the movie that kind of, as I got closer to number one, I was like, maybe this could have worked. Now, it could just be not everything works, and maybe it's just because there's so much of it. I'm seeing parts that could work. Obviously, like Manny said, the biggest glaring mistake is the putting together of Batman and Lois. That would never happen. It's never happened in the comics. Batman and Wonder Woman has been hinted at before, but never Batman and Lois. That doesn't work. That's a fundamental flaw. But I found myself like thinking, well, maybe Snyder. Wait, what am I thinking? I couldn't believe it myself that I actually thought maybe some of these ideas were good and would work. It wouldn't shock me, Manny, to see this in digital comic form, but Snyder has already gone to DC and asked, and they said no, they're not going to do any Zack Snyder story ideas in comics.
Well, that can, this movie
doesn't mean they can. It doesn't mean they can't change their mind if this comes out and blows up like gangbusters, and people are clamoring for, hey, we want part 2 and part 2A or because that was anything's possible.
Yeah, because that was something that he himself on, I don't remember which paid service he's been, making people happy off of, but he mentioned himself, like you said, wanting to look at options to get the rest of the story out, and he mentioned graphic novel or comics. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of these plot points, and pretty much after Justice League 1, which we know that this version is going to be different than the theatrical, but just looking at what their these alleged storyboards show, this same general ending of Justice League 1 seems to be what we would have gotten it anyways. The defeat of Steppenwolf and the retreat of the bad guys temporarily. According to the leaks, Justice League 2 would open with the Justice League doing Justice League things in a natural disaster. They've been the League for a bit, so a week I think they said, and trying to read all of this, and it's freaking insane. Let me see if I can find a better. The color scheme on that is just screwing with my eyes. There we go. Okay, here we go. Bruce and Lois, like we've mentioned, are set to be big parts of this because they had an affair here, basically. You're going to get Batman versus the Riddler. You're going to see Diana go back to the Amazonians, Aquaman trying to unite the oceans. And the big plot of Justice League 2 is basically Lex going and trying to build his alliance with Darkseid, get Darkseid over here, use the anti-life equation, and in it, Superman goes to stop him and falls to Darkseid, asking Bruce to protect Lois, blah blah blah. Just this introduction to part 2, starting a week after Jace, going with the idea of Lex again activating mother boxes and bringing Darkseid over. Was this some of that stuff that was touching your fun spot?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story to think about Lex teaming up with Darkseid. I think they're both too ambitious, and they both, they're too alpha. They wouldn't work well together. But underlying that, you have this triangle that you can't avoid that is fundamentally flawed and, runs throughout with, Lois and Bruce looking for comfort in each other's arms and having a love child after Superman's gone. So you have that awkwardness kind of hanging over. And so, and then I also can't escape the fact that when you talk about Lex Luthor in Zack Snyder verse, or whatever you want to call it, it's Jesse Eisenberg. And I don't think Eisenberg's a terrible actor, but he's certainly no Lex Luthor. And like even in that trailer that they all clamored about, when he's talking and his voice sounds like a 13-year-old girl or something, it's so bad. It's so bad. And so I can't, even as I'm reading, this about Luthor and Darkseid and whatever, and how emotional it's going to be, and Lois ends up dead, and Superman ends up serving Darkseid. Those things are interesting, but again, I don't think it works because of the underlying mistake, I can't call it anything else, the underlying mistake of putting Batman and Lois together, and the miscasting of Luthor. You know, so ultimately I end up with Manny, although I think, this might not be the worst idea in the world. God, I'm glad it's not ever going to show up on the big screen.
Yeah, Manny, this opening, no real big issues other than, you know, bats hitting on Lois while Soups is either dead or brainwashed.
Specifically, I want to know, what do you think about Riddler killing himself?
Yeah, that too. Riddler is supposed to kill himself in this. Let me read what it says specifically during the fight. Superman struggles return to normal life. Batman is also pretty busy tracking Riddler to an abandoned cabin. He learns that Lex approached the villain and tasked him with solving the anti-life equation, which he did. I don't know if I buy that. Is that something Riddler has done or would do or could do?
The anti-life equation hasn't been solved by anybody.
Exactly.
Riddler has been shown, especially recently by Zack Snyder, to be pretty smart.
Scott Snyder.
Scott Snyder. But I kind of, that's a little bit of a stretch.
Okay, so Manny, going into that, he solves it and then he shoots himself in front of the Dark Knight, which reminded me of a Punisher Max scene. But anyways, go ahead, Manny.
So, just want to go on the record and saying that I thought that Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor worked well. I like the kind of the Google Tech California young kid. That's what billionaires look like now.
Yeah,
they look like Mark Zuckerberg. They look younger. Yeah, this isn't the corporate '80s Lex Luthor that we want to see in behind a big chair, but this is. I was okay with it just because aesthetically it matches modern time what one of these punk billionaire kids would look like, and I'm fine with it. I thought it worked well. So when I saw the idea of him putting this team together, and especially because we've already seen some of the characters, and Orm, Black Manta, they were all done very well in Aquaman, and then Wonder Woman. You had the Doctor, and the one I was so curious about was like, what was Captain Cold going to look like? And we all know that Magliano and how Deathstroke, whatever. So that aspect of it, I would have been excited to see the Legion of Doom being formed, and I think that it would have made for great movies. And Superman turning evil, it happens a lot. So it's not something I'm opposed to. It is, like same thing as Jay said. It's that fundamental flaw, like. Bruce and Lois, no, that does not happen, and that cannot happen, and that will not happen. I'm glad that there are enough executives at Warner Brothers to have told him no.
And honestly, that might have been the deal breaker why they said no to adapting this into comics.
Yeah,
that could be also, because it's a ludicrous idea, which it is. Don't.
I agree. It's ludicrous. I was just gonna say that they do their ludicrous. Not never in a million. Take Red Sun, an amazing story. I know that most comics readers like Red Sun. It's a completely different thing. Of course, that's not Superman, but that would be him if he landed in Russia. So I could see DC, like you guys said, if this makes money, brings subscribers, sells toys, shirts, posters, whatever, I could see them doing the comic version. No, it doesn't work, like you said, but because it's not main continuity, I could see them doing it.
I think the only way they do it, though, is they take that aspect out.
Yeah. And then also
replace it with something else.
And then also, as far as the Riddler shooting himself, we've seen Snyder take out key DC characters out before. I mean, Jimmy Olsen lasted 10 seconds maybe, and then so
I don't know. I never bought the Riddler as a guy who would kill himself, though. He's too narcissistic. He cares about.
Well, himself. But the thing is, I kind of see the idea of the anti-life equation being such a such a ridiculous idea or riddle or thought or whatever that
and maybe the consequences.
I can see that happening.
What about him solving it?
Yeah, I mean he's done some pretty insane things in the past, and I think that DC has actually even raised his supposed power level or just intellectual level more recently than ever before.
He
used to just be a guy who liked to have Batman solve his riddles, and then now it's grown to so much more. We've seen a little bit of it in War of Jokes and Riddles. We saw it a little bit in one of the later issues with Tinian and Batman when he was kind of working behind the scenes and with Catwoman. So I mean, it would suck because for me that's one of my favorite villains. So just to see him like off himself real quick, it's like, oh, there's the potential of that.
I am interested in seeing the Batman's version of Riddler, that almost what do you call it, forensic suit that he's wearing to keep from DNA being left at a crime scene, and so I'm interested in that. So let's continue on. The fall of the league as Lex's team attacks Wonder Woman's world falls to Dr. Poison. Orm, Ocean Master, and Black Manta take down Aquaman. Bats barely escape Superman under the control of the dark side. And then Superman kills the Man of Steel, and basically this is where the nightmare happens. Flash survives. Cyborg's apparently torn in half, and then we skip. Wait for it. 5 years later. When have we seen that, Manny? 5 years later. I know this was written before Endgame, allegedly. But anyway, he's 5 years later. We see what's left of the Justice League, and they're freaking out because Darkseid is coming himself, right? And that's supposed to be the end of Justice League 2, everyone. With that ending, Manny, is that's kind of like a Infinity War ending, so it makes sense to be a part 1. I mean, the choice is not the best, but I'm not upset with the way it would end. Are you?
Yeah, well, take away the the thing we already talked about with Lois, and I'm good. I don't really have too much of an issue with it.
Jace? Oh no, go ahead, Manny. You can keep.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue I have with it is, I mean, this is dark. I mean, this is like, people already complain about Snyder, especially, hardcore DC fans, about how everything is so dark and there's no hope in any of his stories, and hope is such a fundamental part of what the DC universe is. So to have a movie where basically the League is getting destroyed, Lex is killed, Cyborg's ripped in half, Wonder Woman dies. I mean, this is dark, and
Lois dies.
Yeah. Lois dies. You're like, man, you really beat everybody over the head with all this darkness, and so I guess you'd have some people that are like, oh, I got to go back and see the end, the part 3, part 2, whatever you want to call it, Justice League 3 or part 2A, whatever you label it. Go back and I got to go see because it's all got to turn out okay in the end, right? Except everybody knows it's Zack Snyder, so you have no confidence that it's going to turn out okay in the end. He might just kill everybody and the villains take over. If it was somebody else running the show, you might think, it's going to end on a high note. But with Snyder, based on his track record, it could just end up being a super depressing part 3 where all the rest of the surviving heroes die. So, I mean, again, I think visually it'd probably look really cool, but I don't know if it works. It might be too dark.
Yeah. You said something specific, that DC characters are supposed to be full of hope and something most comic book fans know, but a lot of casual fans or just comic book movie fans might not know is when and why the DC heroes were created and how they were created as far as their character types versus Marvel, the demigod, pure her idea idols to look up to during troubling times of the Depression, Dust Bowl, World Wars. That's where you guys got your DC heroes. That's why they're so like pure. That's the best word for it. And you can only do so much darkness, like Jace is saying, before you start losing the character and why people like that character. You know, it's like when I point out that and then Marvel does the opposite. Marvel's all about flawed characters and flawed heroes that are human first and heroes second and things like that. And it's like when I've pointed out that certain properties work great to be vessels for contemporary commentary, and other properties aren't. And you as a creative have to accept that while you might really feel the need to do a message or a spin on a property, that property might not be best for your spin or your message that you're trying to send. But the great thing is you could either create a new property or go look for a better fit. So yeah, but that's the end of that. Justice League 2, Justice League 3 is going to kick off with a Green Lantern introduction. I don't remember if they said which one it is. It doesn't really matter because he doesn't stay. No, actually he does. He does get to stay around, but they don't name him. He arrives on Earth looking for a partner. Finds Batman and the Flash. Him and the Flash end up becoming friends after the Lantern saves him. They go to Wayne Manor. And Batman is explaining his plan to defeat Darkseid. And now we get the cosmic treadmill because we got to do some time travel. This has been built by Cyborg. I don't understand the tearing in half. Maybe he's torn in half while he built this or something like that. But Barry ends up trying to go back in time, and there's this whole thing where they're like, what message are we going to send? They all agree on you have to stop Lex, but Bruce pulls Barry aside and tells him something else. With that, they go to take the mother boxes, which they're going to need for the time travel. And of course, we know that what Bruce tells Barry is what we see in the theaters and the stuff related to the nightmare. And anyway, Hayes. Continuing on, we get Deadshot in Justice League 3. He's supposed to try to help take on Superman and the I don't know if they're wanted to call them the Injustice League or the Legion of Doom, but whatever they were going to go with. Green Lantern succumbs to Superman. His ring is no force against the Man of Steel. Cyborgs tossed to parademons, and that leaves Batman and a kryptonite, spear or knife. But he falls to Superman. But just before he can reach the Flash, the fastest man arrives. Man alive manages to race back in time, is how it was worded. And there's where we get the message going to, hey, it's Lois, she's the key, blah, blah, blah. The opening, the death of more heroes, Green Lantern showing up like this, Jace, Green Lantern showing up, which one would you have wanted to see?
Oh well, for me, Hal Jordan is my Green Lantern. So that's who I would like to see. I wouldn't even mind seeing Ryan Reynolds. I mean, the movie wasn't very good, but he didn't have a lot to work with.
Right.
But the other thing that I wouldn't mind seeing, he's been linked to it, is Tom Cruise. Just because that star power that would bring you bring people in that are Tom Cruise fans, not even comic book fans.
Yeah.
Just to see Tom Cruise, and I think he could have fun with it. So yeah, it would be Hal Jordan and either Ryan Reynolds or Tom Cruise would be my casting on that.
The opening. This is still some of the stuff where you're like, man, Snyder might have actually had a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, bringing them in it's great. I mean, because a Green Lantern has typically been a member of the league, so I'm still okay with him bringing the Green Lanterns in. I don't have a problem with that. But again, it's all about execution. But no, I didn't necessarily have a problem with bringing the Green Lanterns in. I do kind of think. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how you're looking at it, and we don't know the details. Does Superman being possessed by the anti-life equation like power him up? Because I mean, at the end of the day, Superman should be able to defeat Green Lantern, but I don't know. It seems like it's pretty easily done here. But I mean, again, we're just getting the broad strokes. But I didn't necessarily. I didn't necessarily have a hard time with any of that.
Yeah, corrupted heat vision to blow apart the ring. Manny, the rings are pretty hard to destroy, aren't they? Like the rings themselves? Or are they easy to destroy, and the lantern that powers the ring is hard to destroy? I mean, I don't know. No, I don't read that much cosmic shit anywhere, so.
I don't remember where I last saw rings destroyed.
Yeah, I can't ever remember seeing a ring destroyed. And the fact that Hal Jordan created a ring out of pure willpower.
Yeah, he did.
That would be actually a great image to see Superman using his heat vision to try to destroy it. And it does kind of explode. And then Hal just concentrates and pulls it back together onto his finger.
I can see that.
That's a great visual.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then Superman just reaches into his chest and pulls his heart out or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Punches through him.
Yeah, that's a Snyder. That's a Snyder visual for sure.
Manny, who would be your Green Lantern to show up and save the day temporarily?
Has to be Hal Jordan, man. I don't think any other Lantern necessarily would be worthy of the moment, especially because we haven't necessarily been given the best Green Lantern. Ryan Reynolds, I thought would have been great if he would have had something to work with. I thought the casting of that movie was done really, really well, and that's the worst part of it. Like you had everybody in place that, I mean, Angela Bassett as Amanda Waller. Come on, that would have been great. That was great. That's a great idea. Then you had Mark Strong as Sinestro, and look, I don't like that movie. Shit, like,
and it took place on Oa and like out in space. Like they had some good ideas.
It should have worked, but god damn, that's anyway. I'm actually going to agree with Jace, and my pick for who it'd be as an actor is Tom Cruise.
Wow,
Tom Cruise
that's
would
insane.
Be.
I wouldn't want Tom Cruise near a comic book movie of my life.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense to swap out Ryan Reynolds for an older, more world weary looking guy, because it's a dystopian future. You're 5 years in the future. Tom Cruise has a few wrinkles these days. So.
I'm all about Mission Impossible films too. So,
and on the website I'm reading this from, they transcribed the alleged storyboards as the Injustice League. Jace, would you prefer Injustice League or Legion of Doom as a name in this?
I don't think
doesn't matter.
I don't think it really matters. I probably, if gun to my head, would pick Injustice League just because it's the Justice League movie. Why not juxtapose that with Injustice League? It makes more sense than Legion of Doom.
Yeah, I guess. Only reason Legion of Doom sticks in my mind is the old Super Friends and
I love those
cartoons. So
love those cartoons. Legion of Doom.
Do you have a preference, Manny, to see on screen, or do you agree with Jace that the naming convention based on the team they're facing?
I would prefer Legion of Doom just because Injustice has its own following now, just based on the video games and then Tom Taylor's books
that's a good point.
So although it's
confusion.
Yeah, this is more of a Legion of Doom team than it is an Injustice, because Injustice really, if you play the video games or read the books, it really it's split between heroes and villains and picking sides, and Superman, the almighty Superman. I mean, that has a similar tone to it, yes, where Lois dies and that sets off Superman, but it's way different also at the same time. So that reason I'd prefer Legion of Doom but they would have to have the dome-shaped headquarters. That's
out of the water too.
In the swamps, yeah.
Either of you watch Venture Brothers?
I've seen a few episodes here and there. But...
God. They in the second to last or last season, because they make fun of the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons a lot in there, but they get into other pop references and whatnot, and they got a Legion of Doom domed base in the Hudson Bay of New York. Shit, it's a funny riff on the old Super Friends. I like it a lot. Their Lex Luthor is like the Jesse Eisenberg Luthor, but mixed with Andy Warhol. He's like a weird artist, like doing like strange photography and film. It's great. I love it. Anyways, Darkseid shows up. What's left of her Justice League stands against him and his armies, and we get basically the portal scene. They describe it as the entire Green Lantern Corps get in on the action, and the entire DC universe, men, Amazons, Atlanteans, and even aliens assemble to save the planet. Casualties apparently somebody say her name for me. Leader of the Amazonians.
Hippolyta.
Thank you, Hugh. She dies in Diana's arms, but the League is unstoppable. Flash is so fast he can be in two places at once. I don't mind that. Flash can be a pretty fast guy when he's not being nerfed by CW. Cyborg takes control of the mother boxes. At some point, they call him the god of the digital age. I think I may have missed that part. But it's Batman who sacrifices his life to put an end to Darkseid once and for all. And before we go to the following the battle, guys, Batman taking out Darkseid. Jace, you good with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with all this. This is the coolest part. I think we're finally getting these heroes living up to their legacy, and somewhat of a hopeful ending. The thing that I have a problem with is what it kicks off with, which is the whole time travel thing and going and whispering, Flash whispering something in Batman's ear that magically saves it. All I can think about is Batman versus Superman, and how that movie all hinged on a word, Martha, and everything. It's like, really, Snyder, you're going to that same thing. Flash's message, all it takes to save the day is just saying one thing to Batman, which we all know what it is without even talking about it. Clearly he failed to save Lois, and when he finds out, hey, you guys had this love child. Of course, that's what it all turns on. It's too Ex Deus Machina. It's too Snyder pulling a rabbit out of his hat again. It didn't work in Batman versus Superman, and I don't think it would be well received here. Although I love the idea of all the heroes, being powered up, Flash being fast enough to be in two places at once and all that. And I don't have a problem with Batman, because it doesn't say how. Sacrifices himself. It's not like if it said Batman, goes, fist to Darkseid's face and knocks him out, or goes hand-to-hand combat with Darkseid, and it could be something like Batman leads Darkseid on a chase. Darkseid fires his Omega beams, and somehow Batman manages to maneuver those Omega beams to come back on Darkseid, and he basically kills himself. That's a total Batman thing to do. So I don't have any problem with any of this sort of ending, other than what kicks it off, and just
right.
Oh, Martha, and everything is saved. Yeah.
So Manny, that time travel thing to go back, to undo the nightmare scenario results in a Back to the Future style time travel movie where affecting the past does affect the future, and that's how Superman stays good this time, but Darkseid still shows up and some bad stuff happens, blah 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 blah. When it comes to this ending though, how do you feel about how Snyder's not the 20 years after yet, but the fall of Darkseid and all that, would it have made up for the bad stuff from Snyder? Like, if you had seen this, would you be happy?
Not if
still bat baby.
The problem is what follows that.
Yeah,
that's the problem, which goes back to the fundamental flaw in it. Other than that, I don't understand why he felt the need to do that. It's unnecessary.
I don't know.
There's no need for it other than to be a dick about it. About like I'm going to make these characters better or something. It's in his opinion, and then it gives the argument to people who don't believe that he really understands these characters who fundamentally, and I still believe that he does it.
Just as easily could be Cyborg going back in time, ripped in half or whatever. Flash carries him back in time, and instead of whispering something in Batman's ear, Cyborg just pops out a little needle, sticks it in Batman's neck, shows him, hey, here's what's going to happen in the future if you don't save Lois right now, and you have the same result. There's no need to do the whole
name thing again.
Batman and Lois have a baby. Yeah.
It's just it's a glaring problem, and it's I'm trying to think of a Marvel equivalent of what that would be like, but right now it's not coming to me.
I don't know. To me, the worst things in Marvel, for me compared to the comics, nerfing Drax and Ronan so much was a little annoying. I understand not wanting Drax to be too powerful in the movies, but I think he's a little too, just basically just a strong guy. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have enough power. Of course, the horrible usage of Red Skull in Cap 1. But yeah, I don't think they've gone so far with any of their characters. At least they could say, oh, we amalgamated 616 and Ultimate to get our MCU version of this or that. There's still some comic connection there. I was going to say, some of the stuff from DC doesn't even seem like it, or from Snyder, doesn't seem connected to comics at all. It's just like maybe inspired because he was like, oh, if I was going to do DC, I would, it's just, I'm going to do it all dark, but it's not really connected to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is this would be the equivalent if Captain America has an affair with Sue Storm.
Yeah.
That's that. I was going to say the guy is Captain America.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I was going to say like maybe Mary Jane.
Yeah.
But Sue Storm's an even better one because she's already married and devoted.
Exactly. That's not happening. That's not happening.
Yeah. As she is a very dedicated family person. Yeah, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, even if Reed died, she wouldn't.
No, fuck no.
Yeah.
No, and this is my biggest thing about this is, and it was one of my biggest issues with Batman Begins is Bruce Wayne is not Tony Stark. He's not. They're complete different characters, both in their suits and out of their suits. Stark might actually hit on a married woman. Wayne, it's just the Playboy thing is mostly just for show. And it was cringy in the Batman Begins movie where they tried to show it being just for show, and he was trying to be over the top. But even if he was a more like Tony, the core part of Bruce wouldn't let him hit on some first off a grieving woman, a woman that was in love with, you know, Superman. Like, it's just, it doesn't fit her, it doesn't fit him. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah,
but
even with the characters he set up, it doesn't work.
So let's talk about the 20 years later following the battle.
Oh boy.
Wonder Woman's in charge of the Amazonians. She's negotiated peace amongst the entire world. Just how she was able to convince 7 billion people to give up their wishes. Yeah, not happening.
That was all right. That's another problem.
Aquaman's crowned the rightful ruler of Atlantis. Didn't that happen in fucking Aquaman or some shit? Cyborg has evolved to become the god of the digital age, transforming himself to once again look human. Jace, is that a thing Stone wants to do in the comics? Is look human? Does he ever phase to do it besides like covert stuff?
No, yeah, he there was even back in the Wolfman Perez days, there was he felt like an outsider. He felt like a spectacle. You know, people would stare at him because he looked so different. So a lot of times he'd wear a hoodie so he could try to hide himself as much as possible. So that's completely within reason.
Okay. Yeah, my only like real interaction with Cyborg outside of this is Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. So
yeah.
I like both for different reasons. And anyways, let's see, Superman knows that Bruce is the father of Lois's child, but he still loves her. He wants to be a father to the boy, and with that, he has reason to be Clark again. There's a couple of missing pieces, and this is the site talking like what happened to Lex and the Flash. But 20 years later, during a memorial service for Batman Commissioner Barbara Gordon, which again, no real issue there, but you know, it's like what was going to happen with all these characters in their solo films and stuff, you know? Barbara Gordon asks Lois when she plans to tell the truth about Bruce surrounded by the League at the fucking memorial service. She tells her son that his dad was Batman, and the movie ends in Gotham with a new Batman emerging from the shadows, and it's Bruce and Lois's son. How much you guys want to bet that they named the kid Bruce or something like that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
No, I think he'd even go as far as name the kid Damien. It would be that cringy.
Oh my God. I could see people walking out. I almost walked out of Star Wars when Han yelled Ben at Kylo Ren. I was like, what? Anyways, that's it for it. Guys, that was your Justice League trilogy. Your amazing Zack Snyder savior of the DC universe, where a lot of people just 10 years ago when the shit was getting kicked off were hating all over Snyder. Not even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Hating on Man of Steel, hating on BVS. And for those that liked him, good. I've always been a guy about consistency, Jace. You and I don't get to talk as much, but I'm like, I didn't like the prequels, so I'm not a George Lucas fan. So even though I have issues with the sequel trilogy, I've never been like, oh God, bring George Lucas back. He's such a G. No, he's not a G. Like, I love Episode 4, but the best Star Wars movies he didn't write or direct. You know, so all of this coming down we know you guys hate the idea of Batman having a kid with Lois. How do you feel about these fans? And do you think there's some inconsistency? Like I was talking to these, do you think that a lot of the ones that are now clamoring for Snyder were or are the same ones that condemned him 5 years ago? Or do you think it's a different group?
Nah, I think it's probably a different group. And I don't think that they can, this group that helped make this happen, I don't think they can see his work objectively. And even talking about these ideas, yeah, some of them are pretty cool. Maybe the second movie would be too dark. Maybe it wouldn't necessarily work. But the problem is then it ends on such a high note that he takes it too far. Like we do get a happy ending, but it's a Zack Snyder happy ending where, you know, like you just said it yourself, Kyle, like world peace, really? Like we got to swing that far? This movie, this whole trilogy would be like so unbalanced in terms of tone. I don't see how it possibly could work. I don't see a movie studio letting him do it. And sure enough, you know, Warner Brothers has said no.
Yeah, definitely. Manny, your overall impression of the trilogy?
The problem with his trilogy is that it's really selfish with it. It doesn't allow spin-off films. It doesn't allow the characters to go off and do their own things. It doesn't allow the creation of television shows. It's really, this is my trilogy. These are my characters. And thank you for setting some of them up, but I'm not really going to put a lot of wiggle room so that you can use them again in the future. So that's it. Once his films were going to be over, that's it. That's all you get. And you have to have, once again, a DC feature film reboot, and puts us back to square one.
Yeah,
that's a big problem.
Jace, did you ever get the impression that maybe Snyder, in his mind, maybe he was like, I'm going to do this my way, and it's going to make a lot of money, so they're going to let me do it. And when they want to spin off, we'll just use the multiverse. And what would that be? 3, 4, 5, 6 movies will be their own thing. Could you have accepted DC EU if that had been the case from the get-go and you had known that his universe was a side thing?
It would have been tough. So, ideally what would have happened is we would have got Zack Snyder's real Justice League theatrical release, and he wouldn't have had to step away. Because that for me was the make or break. Like I was giving him one more shot. And we would have seen what would have happened. But after what happened with Whedon, and then in Zack Snyder's own words, it all comes down to the Q&A that he gave. They were screening one of his movies. I don't even remember what movie it was. But what he said while sitting on stage talking about Batman killing, at that point, that was when I was like, I don't want this guy to ever touch a superhero movie ever again, because he doesn't understand. In his own words, he has admitted that he doesn't understand superheroes fundamentally. And I'm going to read you the quote. I'm quoting him exactly. Someone says to me, oh, Batman killed a guy? I'm like, really? I'm like, wake the F up. So I guess that's what I'm saying about once you've lost your virginity to this effing movie, and then you come and say to me something like, oh, my superhero wouldn't do that. I'm like, are you serious? I'm down the fucking road on that. And it's a cool point of view. Look, I'm 100% fine. It's a cool point of view to be like, my heroes are still innocent. My heroes didn't effing lie to America. My heroes didn't embezzle money from their corp. My heroes didn't commit any atrocities. That's cool, but you're living in an effing dream world, okay? And to Zack Snyder, I will say, isn't that the point of escapism? Isn't that the point of these movies? We are living in a dream world. It's called the world of DC Comics. And the whole point is to go to these movies and have a happy ending and feel better. I don't want to go to the movies and feel worse. And I'm not saying that you can't have, to your point, Kyle, a multiverse version of Batman where he does kill. And maybe that's important to explore at some point. But if you're trying to catch up with the MCU, and we all know that's what the DCEU was trying to do at this time with Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman and what have you, the way to do it is not to give us dystopian, dark nihilistic versions of the characters. Mm-hmm. These characters are icons for a reason. They're beloved for a reason by the fans because we fell in love with who they are in the comics. You got to give us a version of them that's true to that first. And then once you've established that and that's successful, if you want to spin off and do a Batman who kills, or, you know, a Joker who laughs, or whatever you want to do, you know, and get dark and do all kinds of crazy stuff, then you can do that. You know, we just saw with WandaVision how successful that was. Yeah, it had some roots in comic stuff, but a lot of people watching it had no clue.
Yeah.
And it was much different than the Scarlet Witch that was in the movies. Mm-hmm. But because they established and had successful movies with the characters first, and people related to the characters and cared about them, then you can do it. Then it even carries more emotional weight.
Yeah.
You know, that's his mistake. He fundamentally doesn't understand these. It's like like Manny said, he's selfish. He's taking decades and decades of love for these characters and co-opting it to tell the story he wants to tell. And he's too selfish to care about anything else. You know,
yeah.
That's just kind of the way I come at it. He's too enamored with his own ability to create, you know, cool looking images on the screen.
I always bring it back. It's a very, very difficult line to walk for creators when they're working on non-original ideas.
Agreed.
There's a point where certain properties, not every property, but certain ones, Star Wars, Final Fantasy, DC heroes, Marvel heroes, certain ones that they take on their own life, they take on their own, you know, being, and as a creator, you almost lose some authority or even a right to interpret to a degree certain properties, certain characters. What are you doing, Manny? That was weird. I have no idea if I'm going to put this video like that, but that was funny. Anyways, it all goes back to the proper vehicle for your message, and Snyder just he chose the wrong a lot of people think Abrams chose. He made the best Star Wars movie Abrams made is actually Star Trek 1. Trust me on that. It is. I swear. His Kelvin Star Trek movie, the first one, is an amazing Star Wars movie. It's a crap Star Trek movie according to a lot of people. But at least it was at least he had a touchstone to the source. This just doesn't. DCEU as with Snyder just didn't seem like it did. So that being said, Jace, I know you're not the world's biggest modern comic book movie fan to begin with, but knowing what's coming in the future of DC and their EU, knowing it's a multiverse now, you know, the Crisis in Infinite Earths proved everything from CW to HBO Max to the movies is all part of their multiverse. Is there anything in the future you're looking forward to, who actually seeing, giving a chance? What's your hopes for DC screen-wise?
God, it's hard to even have any hopes. I guess my hope is it's kind of very generic, but I just would hope that they put creatives in charge who understand the characters. You know, I know it sounds really kind of generic, but that's where they need to start. That's where they need to start. And I would really like to see Henry Cavill get a shot at Superman when he's got a good screenplay to work with. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I do kind of like the idea of getting a Val Zod or a President Calvin Ellis Superman, a person of color as Superman. I think that would be interesting. So there's nothing that I can, you know, really pinpoint where I'm really looking forward to this or that. I'll continue to support the movies. I'll continue to go and see them. But yeah, they've let me down so many times. Like I have no real thing I can point to. And the other part, is, again, like, I'm a comic guy more than I am a movie or TV guy these days.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll go and see the stuff when it comes out, and I'll hope it's good. But at the end of the day, I'm going to get my superhero stories from comic books, because I know I have more faith that they can give me what I want.
Yeah, I can see that. Manny, you?
I'm really looking to forward to see what Andrew Muschietti does with the Flash, especially with the fact that this is supposed to really kick off that multiverse. Also very excited to see Sasha Calle as Supergirl. She's Colombian, she's Hispanic, and it's a great introduction into the DCEU. I'm always a big advocate for Latina superheroes in our films. I don't think we have enough of them, so I think this was a good choice as far as characters that you can necessarily change. Or, I mean, you can't really say you change Supergirl's race or nationality, because she's an alien, so technically we could be whatever. So
yeah, Krypton definitely is going to have different zones where the sun is brighter in some areas than the others.
So that's really what I'm looking forward to. The Batman also, obviously. I'm not sure how I feel still about Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice,
but we'll see. And then obviously, just one that we'll get very, very soon is Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
very excited because James Gunn has been very adamant that he got to do everything he wanted to do in the film. So we'll see how much different it is from the David Ayer film. Who's still, to this day, man, I still believe that David Ayer should have been the right choice for that film. He's a fantastic director. He does action sequences great. He does that kind of crazy violence on screen very, very well. Smoking Aces, I thought, was great.
Oh yeah, love that movie.
So and it's a shame that that's what got put out. And so I mean, just a lot of things to look forward to. I'm always hopeful that something's going to work, and then when it doesn't, then that's when I judge it accordingly. But the only thing I can say is that, yeah, I'm very, very happy that WB pulled the plug and did not allow Snyder to do 2 or 3. Jesus, that would have been that would have put us back a little bit.
Yeah. Like you said, and like I pointed out, it's like, where were these characters supposed to do things on their own? Right. Like, ever? Like, you killing people, changing time, and doing all this stuff without allowing anyone else to touch these characters. But anyways, it's not gonna happen as of now. So we'll see what some of you guys that are interested in seeing this might get something in the future. I think probably the best you could hope for, the very, very best, is an animated feature, but most likely, if anything, graphic novel, comic books, trade type deal. That's the most likely. If this gets transcribed in any format. Either of you guys disagree with that? It's not likely, but if anything, it's probably comic, graphic novel.
Yeah, I say digital, like Manny said. And that Wonder Woman, or the Lois Bruce
and Bat Baby.
Yeah, that would be removed, would be my guess.
So audience, let us know what you guys think in the comments below about Justice League 2 and 3. Manny, any last words?
I think we've said everything we need to say on the subject.
Jace?
Yeah, I just thanks for having me. And again, I was surprised that by no means am I a Zack Snyder apologist, but there are some good ideas in these stories. But yeah, the fundamental flaw is that relationship. And then, like I said, going with the Martha solution is problematic as well. Like, really, is that what you're gonna do?
All over again. Thanks, Jace, for being on. You guys can find Jace over at the Comic Source. Dude puts out like 1,000 videos a week. So Manny joins them often. Nick still joins you sometimes too, right?
Once in a while. He's been pretty busy lately. So
yep. So guys, definitely make sure you're doing that. All things comic related. You know, Manny and I talk about them here on LR Mornings, but Jace and Manny and others definitely dig into those beautiful printed pages as much as I dig into beautiful TV screens or images. But anyways, check out LRMonline.com every day for all your entertainment news needs and opinions. Check out the podcast network wherever you get your podcasts from: Spotify, Google, SoundCloud, all of it. And of course the YouTube channel. Thousands and thousands of hours of content going up between celebrity interviews, directors, writers, and all the podcasts. It's great, guys. Subscribe. Love it. Jace, besides the Comic Source, plug away, man. Or including the Comic Source. I said something about it, but go. Do your thing.
Yeah, everybody. So we did a video that came out just yesterday on Sunday about the latest or first publication from Bad Idea. So go check out that video again on YouTube. And coming up on next Sunday's Bad Idea takes over the Comic Source. We're going to be actually talking to the co-CEOs and chief creative officers of the company about the launch and, you know, addressing some of the concerns that some people have about them trying to artificially make their book hot. That's not what's going on at all. So if you're curious about that comic book stuff that's going on, definitely check that out. Otherwise, you know, creator interviews coming up: Fabian Nicieza, JT Krull, all kinds of great content. As Kyle alluded to, it's like about 10 episodes a week that we put out. So there's something for everybody. But do a search for the Comic Source on whatever podcast platform you like: Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes, whatever you listen to your podcast on, you'll find us there. And you don't need to listen to all the episodes, just pick and choose what you like. Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are working with the Comic Source, getting some of their more interest. I don't want to say like any of them are less interesting, but you know, some of your videos are coming over to the LRM side for the fans as well. So you guys can get exposed to the Comic Source and then head over to his page and get even more. The 2 videos we have up right now are your guys' Best of 2020 awards on the LRM YouTube channel. So that's pretty cool. Manny, places people can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at LRM_Emmanuel or on Instagram at riddlemethis_510.
You guys can find me at that Kyle Malone on Twitter, at that one Kyle Malone on Instagram. That's the number 1. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.